BruCast is back, baby.
This BruCast episode is brought to you by the BruCast Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now bru-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the BruCast name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BruCast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BruCast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below.
Here we thrive, we survive!
Alright, hey there BruCast fans, we finally did it, we finally did the giveaway. If you haven't checked yet, go check, the video is now out live in our channel. Go into the live tabs and check if you won. We gave away this beautiful, awesome, sexy BruCast t-shirt. Yes, one of you are the winner. Just check it out, you might have won. Of course, we're gonna keep doing the giveaways. It has been a huge success. You guys keep subscribing, you guys keep commenting. We're gonna keep doing the giveaways. It's that easy. Alright, so that's the first announcement. The second announcement of the day is this Saturday. Yes, this Saturday we're gonna have our first earth-shattering news event. It's the first ever BruCast special event that we're doing. Again, we're gonna be doing it live this Saturday at 7 p.m. That's Berlin, Paris time. 1 p.m. that's US ET time. So tune in, turn up, be inspired. Check it out. We're gonna have some huge earth-shattering announcements this Saturday. So don't miss that out. All right, so let's talk about today's guest. Our guest today is Mike Oppenheim. Mike Oppenheim is a novelist, musician, filmmaker, and host of the top-ranking podcast Coffin Talk, The Meaning of Death. With a background spanning rock bands, book indexing, and philosophy, Mike brings a unique perspective to storytelling, creativity, and the deeper questions of existence. Whether discussing life on tour, writing metaphysics, or his experience in hospice care, his engaging and humorous approach makes for thought-provoking conversations. All right, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing really great. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for that awesome intro.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're muted. Could you say that again?
Sure, no problem. I said I'm excited to be on the show, and thank you. That was a great introduction.
All right, thank you so much. So you're muted now. Everyone heard you. Man, that's amazing. I gotta be honest. We have guests and we have guests, right? Some guys are like, oh, I'm a writer, and which is amazing in itself. But dude, you do so much. That's amazing. So
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I just I like to do a lot, and I don't like to be told to stay in your lane and do one thing. And so I've spent my entire career saying no to everyone who tells me you're doing it the wrong way. And now I'm in my 40s, and I'm really glad I did it my way. I'm having fun, and I think that's the point.
Oh yeah, let's go, man. This is the most important thing, I would say. It's fun. Like some people ask me about the podcast, Bruno. What are you doing? What's your goal? Like, what's the point? It's like, there's no point. I'm having fun. That's the point. And as long as I'm having fun, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like, why not, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're hitting some sort of point in philosophy meets civilization where enough people are thinking about this that the actual like trends are changing, with specifically speaking about what we're talking about, which is why would you do something and why are you doing it? Here in America, they call it performativity, which is like acting as if you're not acting. So like saying you're shocked by a political event when you're not actually shocked, things like that. It's called performativity. And I think you and I are talking about the opposite of performativity, which is, hey man, you're cool, I'm cool. Let's meet and see if we have a good conversation. And if it sucks and you stop having fun, stop doing it. And same with me, you know?
Wow. Okay. There was a lot to unpack there. So,
Sorry.
but that's amazing. That's so interesting. So, could you let's can we deep how to say in English go a little
That's
bit
okay.
more into deep in this, like the performative aspect of it? What is
Sure.
that?
Yeah. Well, so I think I don't know when the term really started, but I can tell you that if you live in the world and you pay attention to America, which a lot of people for good and bad reasons do, you've seen it a long time coming, and it's basically the way like a politician might, like here's an example. They call it pearl clutching, which is like the idea is the metaphor is like you're taking your pearls and you're clutching them because you're so nervous and you're so worried. So there's a difference between being surprised and a difference between being disappointed and a difference between being upset. And I think performativity is when you pretend to have a much more dramatic reaction to something than you actually did. And what it does is it raises and heightens the overall frenzied climate, if you will, of like the society watching it and interacting with it. So like when let's go all the way back to 2001 when I was I think 20 years old. A couple of planes crashed into a couple towers here in America. I don't know if you heard about it. We call it 9/11. Other people, they probably call it the greatest day ever, and other people probably call it that day that affected America. Like there's three ways to look at it, depending on which culture you come from and what your goals are. The point is, when I saw that happen, I like dropped my coffee at 8 something in the morning and my jaw hit the floor. And I thought, oh my God, this is probably the end of the world. That was not performativity. But if I were to pretend that I was shocked when Joe Biden's like barely able to talk carcass came on stage to debate Donald Trump, I would be lying and then some. It's not to say that I care about whether Trump or Biden is president. It's all about performativity, what we're talking about, whether people were surprised by that. So any person who was pretending to be surprised by how far gone Joe Biden was at that point, they were partaking in what's called performativity. Now, just to be fair, because I don't want people to listen to this and think I'm some rah political guy, the same could be said about any reaction to Donald Trump. It's not specific to your politics or to what's going on. It's specific to your sense of integrity and honesty. So when I talk about performativity, I would say a lot of people, when they're like, hey, like, subscribe, share, like, do what you can, there's a performative element to that. Like, they're not saying it because they really actually are thinking about what they're asking you to do. They just know it's like a slogan and a tagline to say on their podcast. And I feel like performativity has gotten so pervasive, so much a part of my culture, at least, that a lot of podcasts aren't authentic anymore. They're just people thinking, okay, this is how you podcast. This is what someone I hired told me to do. This is what an agency says works. But it's not about what works. It's about what makes you happy. Like you shouldn't be, there's no should. You can do whatever the heck you want, whoever you are listening. But if you're not having fun doing it and you have food on your table and you have a warm bed to sleep in and you have people who love you, stop doing it. That's performativity. Whereas like if your life depended on this podcast and your enthusiasm with it, fake it all day, fake it all night. Like I'm not, I'm not going to tell someone what to do when it comes to like their livelihood, but I think people are starting to get tired of the performativity, of the dishonesty, the public displays from so many people. And again, it's not just politics. It's all over society. It's on your Facebook feed. It's with your friendships. It's even in like a situation in public where someone pretends to be astonished about something and you can tell it's a performance. So that's where that term like comes into play now. And I'm really trying hard to step back from it, to step away from it, and just to be a real authentic person on your podcast, on any podcast, wherever I am.
Ah, that's beautiful. That's what the world needs right now. That's what's gonna heal the world, in my opinion. And I'm not joking. It feels like I'm being dramatic, but I'm not. Um, and Mike, so the reason why I truly believe that is because like this weekend ChatGPT just released this ChatGPT 4.0. Like the world's like going nuts. You can do anything right now. You can fake anything. You can create anything. My point being, anyone can be anyone, and everything's AI generated. There's no more authenticity in the world anymore because I think someone said yesterday in one of those threads about AI that art is dead. Like everything from now on in history gonna be a mashup of things that already existed, that have been invented in the past, and that hit me hard. Like I can see how this is true. I can see how the next 100 podcasts that are created in the next 2 years, like I don't know where I'm taking these numbers from, but a lot of them gonna be like just AI bots talking to people, and I was like, no, like no one wants to watch this shit, no one. So I would say authenticity is the cure to all of this. Would you agree?
Yeah, I not only do I agree, but I also see like so many ways to look at it. Like if you're looking from the philosophy of Buddhism, the death of the ego is your only goal. So AI is actually your greatest ally right now. It's teaching you to get humble. This thing is better than you. It's smarter than you. It can interact with you and your children better than you can. It's a more interesting spouse. It's not a lover yet because we haven't programmed it into a beautiful, timeless body that doesn't age. But I mean, you think marriage rates are bad right now. Imagine the choice of this AI bot that looks exactly like I want it to. I can change how it looks. I can change its personality on demand. I can decide to fight with it and then make it forget about the fight. I can like just basically do whatever I want. That's very, I'm not going to say it's healthy or unhealthy because I don't care. I'm not God and I don't know if there's a design to this universe. But what I do know is if it doesn't feel good, humans like to shirk away from it. We like to get away from something that doesn't feel good, but that's not always what you're supposed to do. Many times we admire people who go into battle when their urge is to run away from the battle. And I'm not talking about war necessarily. I just mean your battle. Like conflict and engaging conflict and being successful in conflict is undoubtedly one of the greatest human experiences, and it's a growth experience. So you are, people hate this term, so I apologize if it offends you, but you're a creator, right? Like, I mean, you're a creative type. You have a podcast, you create. That's the definition of the word. That's how I'm using it. It's not pretentious, even though it sounds very pretentious to me, but you are a creator. I am a creator. And now this new thing has come along, AI. It too is not only a creation, but also a creator now. And so it's going to be interesting. Like, do you care who made your favorite movie? Do you care if it was made by someone who molested children? Do you care if it was made by a robot? Do you care if it was made by someone who saved your mother's life? Like, do we care where art comes from? Do we care where a great feeling comes from? Is it okay to feel wonderful on your wedding day and also feel wonderful when you do drugs? Is that one of them less okay than the other? Like, I know in your reward center in your brain, they both feel pretty darn good, right? So we're really entering, like, authenticity is just the word. It's exactly what every person should be thinking about. I don't think it's going to be answered in the next year or two. And I don't know how, like, you know, I have children who are 1, 3.5, almost 4, and almost 10. And like seeing their interactions already with like internet, AI, television is fascinating. So who knows? But I do agree with you that I know I'm only listening to people and checking in on authentic things. I'd rather hear someone say something I disagree with, but with authenticity, than hear someone say something I agree with, but inauthentically.
Man, you hit the nail on the head so many times. I love it. That's beautiful. Yeah, in therapy they have something called exposure therapy. I think they purposely introduce themes that you're averse to in order to cure you, in order for you to grow and feel stronger. And this reminds me when I went to watch this movie called Wicked. Like every side of my body was like, this movie is not for you. There's something that, like, you're not the target audience, Bruno. But I don't know why. I think for that same reason, I told everyone I'm gonna watch it. Like, there's something to it. I need to understand what's the hype about, even though I'm not the target audience. And it was like, I'm not watching this. And I went to it. It was great. Like, it's not my type of movie, but I enjoy it. And I think most of people, they just don't do anything that they don't like. Why should they? They have everything they ever need to. Like in your lives, they have porn, instantly access to porn. They have all the amazing food in the world. Like, who are we, like, to tell them what to do or not? They are the masters of their own reality. But nowadays, so many people are stuck in this toxic reality. I'd say, like, they spend 12 hours per day on TikTok. They just eat trash food. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going with that.
No, I appreciate it. I think you're younger than me, at least I believe you are. And
I'm 30,
it's
32.
Okay, yeah. 32. So I'm 43. So we're like 10 years apart about. And then it's interesting because if we threw like a 22-year-old on, I just spent 2 weekends ago, I went to New Orleans, Louisiana in America. And I spent the weekend with all my good friends from college and one of their kids who had just turned 21. And it was fascinating to hang out with a 21-year-old, like a real human 21-year-old. We spend so much time talking about people that age, but we don't really engage with them or interact. We just, Gen Z is this. Oh, these people are this, millennials are this. Like there's just such like a stoic, and I don't mean it in the philosophy way, like an unwilling to move or budge attitude towards young people right now specifically. I felt it when I was young, but not nearly the heat level I believe it's at now. And I want to just keep telling people these kids are all right. They're not as bad as you think. They hate TikTok a lot more than you're willing to admit. You love it. Not you specifically, Bruno, but like older people are having trouble admitting how much they use social media, how much they actually secretly or openly like it. Like it's just an embarrassment to it. Young people, they're actually just seeing what you and I just talked about. They're like, this doesn't really seem authentic. I'll spend a little time on it, and of course there's outliers and kids who are, horribly addicted to it. But I do think, less and less people in the future are going to be living on their phones, so to speak.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
I think there's just going to be there's always a backlash to the backlash. What's interesting now that I'm in my 40s is I'm really starting to see this pendulum phenomenon. I grew up in the 1980s. It was very conservative. So I grew up liking punk rock music and being anti-authority because I was surrounded by an authoritarian vibe. Everyone talked about Ronald Reagan when I was a kid, our president of America, the same way they kind of talk about Trump now. And it's not the same. I'm not likening or unlikening. I'm saying the attitude about authoritarian conservative, Margaret Thatcher in England, I don't know the history of your chancellors, but also Germany was divided. Your country history is way different from most of the other ones in Europe. And so I think, but in general, the 1980s was a conservative government in most Western countries. And then the 90s, we saw like the proliferation, the Berlin Wall falls, Russia supposedly goes into a democracy. Boris Yeltsin comes out, who's considered, socially liberal, especially compared to Putin. And now we're having a return to conservatism. So I'm really seeing, oh my God, okay, so I got to make it through the next 10, 15 years. There's probably going to be a war, which really sucks because that's like the only thing I truly, truly care about is I'm like the most anti-war you can be. I'm not the most anti-war person, but I am tied with everyone else who feels the way I do, which is like it should be illegal. It should just be anytime a country goes to war, every other country should just immediately pile on them and just stop them. It like makes no sense to me how war is legal. But the point is, I think we're going to see another war. I think most people feel that. And I think the human consciousness like pushes for these things. So the reason I'm predicting people will get off their phones is there was like a backlash to the backlash in the 90s and early 2000s. And then we went conservative again. And now, we're coming out. So we'll see where this goes. But I do feel like the phones and the addiction to technology has to be similar to the way television was addictive for the 50s and 60s. Like a lot of kids just were psychopathically engaged with their televisions and there was like less going outside. And then everyone went outside again. And when everyone went outside, guess what happened? Free sex, lots of drugs. So then what happened? Stay inside, watch your kids, no drugs, no sex. Like it's just parents responding to children, I think.
I heard once, I don't know the exact quote, but isn't like history doomed to repeat itself forever? It's like a cycle. Everything is a cycle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And there's another quote similar, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, which I'm really seeing right now.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. While you were talking about the war, I caught myself thinking like, aren't we by nature violent animals? Like, isn't like war and conflict part of who we are? Would you say that wars are 100% avoidable?
I would say the following. Every person is capable on working on their temper, and everyone's ability to work on their temper is different, and everyone's original temper is different. And so I have the temperament of someone who is very likely going to get into arguments and fights with people, but knows how to back down before the actual war starts. So I speak from that position, which is, yes, I'm aggressive. Yes, I have an ego. Yes, I get provoked. I'm not afraid to confront and talk back to people. If someone cuts me off in a car when I was younger, I used to like maybe give chase or be like very aggressive, which I am embarrassed about, but I'm also owning, because again, authenticity. Like, why am I going to lie to you about my temper? If I want other people to work on their temper, I certainly have to be okay with talking about it. I've had a divorce. I divorced someone because of their temper. So it wasn't mine, it was theirs, but I'm not going to lie. Her temper made my temper flare. And instead of going to war, I chose to get a divorce, which to me is a peaceful way to sidestep a war. Had I stayed in that marriage, we were essentially going to be at war in a marriage. I bring this up because I do think we're animals. And I also think that unlike most animals we study, we have what's called like the brain on top of the brain. You know, we have the lizard brain, which wants sex, protection, sleep, food, and a sense of safety, which is protection. But and again, I don't think all humans are equal, not at all. I believe the law should say that we are treated as equals. I'm not arguing against that, but I don't think we're all equal. I think you probably have wonderful psychological qualities that I will never have or would only aspire to have, and vice versa. And that's why it's fun to talk to you. This also would go into what we were talking about with a robot. Like, the robot has to be a foil to you. It has to like play off your personality to be engaging. So like at some point you are going to fight with your chatbot because if you want to. So to go back to your question though, yes, I think war is perpetually an obvious decision for a lot of people to make. But no, I think with the only solution I have for this, and I've thought a lot about it, is we need to teach young children starting at 3 a uniform system of emotional resilience and anger management. We need to spend less time teaching them how to use math skills and reading skills, even though those are important. We need to teach them the skill of all skills, which is, how do you look at someone and read what they're kind of thinking and know how much you are or are not upsetting them? How do you apologize in a way that the person feels your heart? They don't think you're just saying, I'm sorry. They feel that you feel sorry. And how do you get over your ego to say you're sorry when you're embarrassed and there's like this heated, I can't say I'm sorry because then I would have to admit that I did something wrong, and admitting I did something wrong hurts my brain and hurts my ability to sleep at night. You know, like that is like one of the hardest things to pierce through with a lot of people, is just like, it's okay to admit you yelled at someone, and it's okay to admit that you got really upset in the car and and everyone else had a bad time with you. You know, like it's hard to do that, but that's what, if we taught kids young, it wouldn't be hard. It's hard because, especially for boys and boy culture, we grow up like, don't ever cry and don't show weakness.
Oof, no, that's a recipe for depression and anxiety later in life, right?
Yeah.
So, if I understand correctly, we're talking about emotional intelligence. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yes, I agree 100%. Why they don't teach emotional intelligence to our kids in schools is such an important skills. Like, I think it's like one of the most important skills that you can ever learn in your life, because it's the basis for is the base for emotions. For relationships. Right? How are you gonna have mature relationships later in life? You have no emotional intelligence. You cannot have empathy. You cannot express. You cannot identify and express your feelings correctly. Therefore, you cannot build and you cannot build anything healthy, long-term healthy with anyone. I couldn't agree more. Like, would you have a guess why that's not something that is taught at all in schools? Like, because it is known for a fact, like many adults, like age doesn't matter. Like, no matter how old you are, emotional intelligence, if you don't learn it, if you don't develop it will never be there. Even if you're 70, 80, 90, if you're a Harvard professor, like some people just don't have it. So I don't. So my question is, why do you think it is a subject that is not taught? Like, people don't teach it, and you need to learn it later in life somewhere else.
I can only answer as an American. I can't answer for Germany or any other culture, because I'm not of your culture and I don't know the deep like iceberg side of it.
Oh, it's even worse, man. It's even worse here.
Yeah. I'm 100% confident in my answer, which is, we teach children in school in America skills that will lead to high-paying jobs. That's all we care about. So we encourage arguing because that makes you a good lawyer. We encourage paying attention to medicine and science because it'll make you a doctor. So if there was a job that paid higher than a lawyer, a Harvard professor, and a doctor, and it was based on you being able to handle trauma and be emotionally intelligent, we would start teaching kids that. And so that's kind of why I hate when people say I'm against capitalism, because this is not capitalism's fault. This is putting a prize on how much money you make's fault, which is not capitalism. Capitalism is a system within a system of how to like sort out bartering and trading. And we're going to always have to trade and deal with each other. And we do have finite resources, and different areas have more. So there's nothing wrong with a system of trade. What's wrong is promoting, if you are really good at certain skills but not others, you will make more money, which is essentially more power. And power is attractive to everyone. Power gets you the member of the population you most want to live with. You know, if you're looking for a mate, mates are attracted to power because it's inspiring, it's confidence, it's safety, it's so many things. So if we switched what makes you appear powerful in this society, it would happen overnight. And that's actually, if you look at the allegations in America about like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's sort of what is going on right now, is a fight about what skill is more important, honoring diversity, listening to others, you know, and I'm not actually a strong proponent of the way DEI is talked about in my country or the way it was implemented in the last 4 years. So I can understand reasonably all the sides of this argument, but I will say that there is, the culture war in my country is between sensitivity and no sensitivity. It's really that.
What's your view on DUI? Do you think, because right now Trump is like cutting everything? He's like basically saying he's basically saying it's a meritocracy. Sorry, how do you
Meritocracy. Meritocracy.
Basically, if you deserve it, you're gonna have it. Like they're color. I think the correct term that he used is we are now colorblind. It doesn't matter what's the color of your skin. It's all on the basis of if you deserve it or not. So, what are your views on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of views, and they're pretty consistent. But I would just say that okay. So I used to teach as well as all the other things you listed, and one of the classes I taught was critical thinking, and in that comes this category of logical fallacies. And logical fallacies are things like saying, if we legalize caffeine, next thing you know, everyone will be doing heroin. It's a slippery slope. That's like a logical fallacy. That's not true. Plenty of people try caffeine and never try heroin. Plenty of people try caffeine and then try marijuana, but stop at marijuana. Other people, they go past marijuana to cocaine to heroin. So it's not true. The slippery slope argument is just, it's a fallacy, but people like the way it sounds, and we like a narrative. We like a story that explains causality more than anything. We'd rather hear a story that explains why it's snowing than know why it actually snows. If the story of why it snows isn't a good story, we'd rather lie and tell each other a story. So I think the story of DEI is what's being debated right now. I don't think anyone is colorblind. I think that most people I know who are Black feel more comfortable when they're hanging out in a Black audience with Black members of it. And I think a lot of white people want to say they feel as comfortable in a Black audience, but they're lying. And it's not about racism, and it's not about hatred, and it's not about anything more than just your comfort level. So children don't see race. It's been proven over and over and over again. It's a very fictitious taught thing. You can scream all day that, no, of course your kid notices that the other kid's skin is a different color, but they don't notice it. They just don't. I've asked my daughter, she's 3.5. She comes home from school. I'm like, describe the person you're talking about. And I'm not trying to get her to be racist. I just literally want to know which of your classmates are you referring to, because I don't know their names. And she can't answer it. She has no idea. And if I say, like, I've tried one time, I said like, oh, the girl from India, because I'm like, that's not racist. That's a country of origin. I'm not talking. And she just, it like went right over her head. So my point is, what I think about Trump and DEI and the fight against it, I think the same thing about the people who fought for it. I think they're misguided in their attempts to assuage, to calm people down. Like, if you want people to feel diversity and equity and inclusion, you need to make them feel included, but that would include people who hate that term. So I don't have an answer for how to solve it, but I do think it's a total BS misdirected conversation. It's not at all about what either people at the top are talking about. And then meanwhile, I went to a school that was not diverse, but was inclusive. And I can explain that at length if I need to. But the point is, yeah, so it was mostly all the kids were of the same socioeconomic class, which to me is the most important defining trait in the modern world. Like how much income you and your peers have is what will separate you or unite you more than anything. If you're on a plane, I don't care what your skin color's like. You'd rather sit next to someone who behaves like you, and behavior is very class driven in my opinion.
Really?
So
Isn't
so diversity for the sorry.
No. I just remember something, but I just remembered that isn't that the thing like rich people laugh? For example, Jeff Bezos is a very distinct laugh, and everyone who is rich has the same laugh. That's not me saying, it's the internet. I saw like a meme about it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know that specific one, but I do think it's true that if you asked Hillary Clinton, who would you rather ride on a plane next to, a homeless person from New Jersey or Donald Trump, she would lie to the audience and say the homeless person, but in her brain she'd be thinking, please, Donald Trump, let me just sit next to someone who doesn't smell and like talks the way I do, and I know he doesn't have a gun, and he, you know, because again, like stereotyping and fear driven logic is kind of what I'm getting at. I feel like I went pretty far from your question, and I want to honor your question and honor your show. So as far as my opinions of Trump and DEI go, I would side on we should be teaching children very little about adult problems, and we should be teaching children everything we can about how to get along. So I think you don't teach diversity, and you don't teach equity, and you don't teach inclusion. You are inclusive and you are equitable. And then diversity, that's just a silly word, because like you're not going to punish people if they all look the same in the same like small town. You can't like force kids from like 6 towns over to like go to school with them. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, that's something that word has been overused in my opinion. And that's the thing about politics and Trump. What Trump is so good at, because I live in this country and I hear his rhetoric every day of my life for 12 years now. He's just so good at quick statements that piss everyone off. And that's how you stay relevant in my country. That's how you stay relevant on the internet. You piss people off. You engage negatively. They've proven it a million times over. If you attack your opponent in an election, you win. And it's not just in America. It's in Germany. It's in any country. What's your party? The AFD, Alternative for Deutschland. Like there's a lot of studies on, not your party. I didn't mean to say like you belong to that party, but in German politics, I was recently indexing a book all about the AFD party and like how they stay relevant, and it's they use Trump, like they use the same tactics he does.
Really? Whoa.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because I know like they did studies with Facebook, and the thing with Facebook is the posts that cause the most outrage, the posts that make people the blood of people boil the most, those are the most clicked on. And
Yeah.
I cannot deny, but to think there's some type of correlation there. Like people engage on things that make them nervous for some reason, right? And they remember it. And that's what Trump do all the time. Oh, we're gonna buy Greenland. No, Canada's gonna be our fifth one for I don't know, the new state. And like, what the fuck you're saying, bro? But it's in your mind. You remember, like, I'm not even from the US, and I know all those funny quotes. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. It's weird. It's weird living in this country, because I'm like a huge stand-up comedy fan, and I'm also like a very easygoing person. Like I like to laugh. I can take a joke. So Donald Trump is like interesting to me, because he like, I mean, he gets people to hate him in a way that I just like don't. I understand how much people hate him, and I understand why, but the way to defeat him is so obvious to any kid who went to high school and saw like what a bully does and how it works. But like, you know, no one in this country, well, it goes back to the money thing. He makes people money. He makes everyone around him rich, including people who hate him. So I think that's the key mostly to his and other people's success. If you promise people security through money, most people are willing to do awful things for money. It's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, of course. You know, they're rumors. They're just rumors, and I'm going into the conspiracy theory camp here. Is
Oh, I love it.
like there's several people who invented ways of fueling their cars with water and whatnot, and the cars work. But the thing is, this will destroy the oil industry, right? The automotive industry. So they just pay those guys billions of dollars, send them to the Cayman Islands, and there they are. Like, there's just conspiracy theories. I don't know if it's true, but again, like the theory is that they got money, they got security, and that they're sad. They don't care about their invention anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe, to a limited extent, I believe, there's a saying where there's smoke, there's fire. If a conspiracy has enough smoke to it, I'll look into it. I mean, I don't believe the moon landing was faked. I think that's silly because we went back 4 times, and I just think it's crazy that people just concentrate on the first trip, and then they're like, oh, and then the other ones obviously are fake too. But it's like there's a lot of men and women who have been to space, and there's a lot of men from that era who like say they went to the moon. It would be very hard to get that many people to lie and do the same thing. So lying is really hard. It's hard to get people to consistently lie. Like whoever got away with the JFK killing, that's my favorite conspiracy because it's undoubtable. Like you're the weirdest human I've ever met if you think JFK assassination went the way like it's like officially described, but you're also considered a lunatic if you believe it didn't go the way it went. And that's the job of my government, is to make people say you're crazy for questioning authority. And that's the scariest thing to me of living in the current world I've lived in. And this includes the Biden administration before it and the Trump before that and COVID and everything. Is authority is what's on the rise. And that's what people like me fear and hate the most, because that, when you look through history, never ends well. It's history to me is the fight of small little people to build enough strength to stop people at the top from just beheading them at will when they do something that upsets them.
I was thinking about. I went to the supermarket the other day, and it's crazy, but I was thinking about exactly that. It's so weird, and I was thinking that the fact that depending on the speech, they either say, "Oh, we are the representative of the people," or depending on the speech, if there's another speech that they need to convey something else. No. I'm the leader. We are the leader. Like, which one are you? You're like representative of the people, or you're the leader, or you're both? Like, they shape the narrative depending on what conveys them the most, But I keep falling back to this part. Like, you guys are the representative of the people. Like, that's where you are. Like, you work for us, but they tend to forget that. It's whenever it's convenient. So, yeah. Mike, do you want to comment on that? Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, I think if we're going to like wrap up this round of I make nothing but enemies with everyone I've never met on the internet, I would just like to say I really like your approach to talking about this, because your approach and my approach is the same. And I want to commend you. You're like listening and engaging and talking to me. And I would say this is the only example I really hope to set with people like you is that's really the solution to everything, is just listen to people. Like, let them talk for a little bit. Like, don't plan your next question. Like, you're clearly listening. I'm listening to you. I care what you think. I love learning about other cultures. I taught ESL for 10 years, and I miss meeting people from all over the world. It's so interesting to see how, like, if you put us in a photo, people are like, oh, they look kind of similar. I mean, my last name's Oppenheim. There's a town in Germany called Oppenheim. Like, I'm clearly, I have German in me, but like, I love, like, Europeans are like, why do you guys say that in America? We say it because we're like desperate to not be American. We want like some other identity. But the point is, I just appreciate you, and I like your approach. And I think that this is a good sign that two people 10 years apart in two different countries can just talk.
Thank you. What did you say? TSL? What is that?
ESL is English as a second language. So I used to teach English, but only to adults from other countries visiting America. It was like this crazy job I had for 9. It's not crazy, but it was for me exhilarating, because I like left my condo in Oakland, California, and I took the little BART train across the bay into San Francisco, and then I'd be in this building teaching nothing but people from other countries. Like, no one was American there except my boss and the other teachers. So I'd spend all day, every day, 5 days a week with people from other countries. So for 10 years, I felt like I lived in another country, but when I went home, I was in America.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it helped me. It's why I have such a different view of America than most Americans I meet, and it's not better. It's just a different view.
What was it?
You guys changed me.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Mike, I wanted to ask you about your podcast. It sounds so interesting. Like, let's start with the name Coffin Talk. Coffin Talk, the meaning of death. So, I guess you guys talk about death.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I did hospice care. After my divorce, I wanted to I had free time that I hadn't had for a while. So I was on the days I didn't have custody with my son, I was doing hospice care. And in hospice care, I worked at a dementia ward where people would check in and they had 6 months or less to live. And their relatives would be crying and they'd be out of it or in it. But depending on the person, I started to notice a reoccurring theme over and over again, which is people in my country, America, really don't talk about death until it's way too late. They start talking about it at the very end. And I decided I kind of wanted to figure out why that was going on. So during COVID, my wife and I were appropriately bored. So we started a podcast and I looked at, well, what do I have knowledge about and what's a subject I care about that isn't overdone. I'm not going to start a comedy podcast. I have a sense of humor, but I'm not a comedian. I'm not going to start a sports podcast. I watch sports, but I'm not a star athlete. But something I do have a real niche view of, or at least did at the time, is dealing with death and the death community in America. So I started Coffin Talk, which is a play on, in America, there's a famous show called Coffee Talk where you drink coffee and talk. So Coffin Talk, which is evoking the image of the casket that you bury people in. And the idea was to only have one planned question, which is, what do you think happens when you die? And originally I was going to ask that first, but I noticed quickly on that it's best to interview the person and then ask them midway through the interview. So what I usually do is we talk about their life story, and then we talk about what they think happens when you die. And then we kind of just go into, how does that affect the way you live your life? How does your impression of how much time you have here, what the point of being here is, and how it's going to end? How does that affect how you treat others, how you treat yourself, ambition, goals? And every guest is different. I'll interview someone who almost died when they were a child. And of course, the interview is going to be very much focused on that event and how it informed them. But I also interview very, very normal people who have never even come close to dying. And usually they'll talk about a prominent death in their life, even a celebrity dying and how it affected them. It doesn't matter when it happens, but at some point in everyone's life, they do realize, oh, there's no one here who knows for sure what's going to happen. There's a lot of people who say they know for sure, and I want to believe them, and I can lie and say I believe them, and I can even believe them, but there's still this wiggle room. There's this little thing that goes on in all of our minds, especially when we're on a plane and it suddenly drops, that feeling, where do you go?
Yeah.
Do you go to praying? Do you feel safe still? Do you worry about a file on your computer you wish you deleted? I don't know. I'm just I want to know what people think about all that. So I started asking everyone, and I'm 200 something episodes in, and I'd love to have you on it. My only rule for why I wouldn't have a guest on is if they're super salesy. That's the only time. I've made that mistake twice. So, someone comes on and they're I want to sell a book, and then I ask them what do you think happens when you die? Well, my book on the arts is and I'm no. I what do you think happens when you die? I'll sell your book later. I don't it's not that I'm not trying to help people. It's actually I love helping people, but so it's my rule is just because a lot of people are I'm not interesting enough to be on. No. Your opinion on what happens when you die is very interesting to everyone. It really is.
It's universal. We all gonna die. There's no that doesn't regard me. Of course it does. We all gonna die. It's one of those universal things. We all want sex. We all need money. We all gonna die. We all gonna pay taxes. I don't know.
Yeah.
We all have some common things, But gosh, I'm glad that you brought this thing up. The salesly. How did you mention?
Sales people. Yeah.
Sale people. Gosh, you have a podcast, so you get me. Sometimes I'm excited to meet the person. They have incredible profile. They seem genuinely interesting. And I mentioned I don't know, you have an amazing book. We're gonna talk about a book. But all they want to do is talk about their book. It's bro, your book is interesting, but you are also interesting. Let's talk about other things. The book gonna be on the description below. And I don't know. They just get stuck in this PR mode. It's kind of. Do you ever found a way of breaking breaking that?
Yes and no, but my main suggestion to you, especially if you're using Podmatch like I am for some of
Yeah,
your guests, I directly put it in a statement. I just say, I want you to understand that like this show is not all about, we will put a link in the notes. I will bring it up at the beginning of the episode and at the end. I even say at the end of the episode, I say, is there anything you'd like to tell our audience? Please don't make it a plug for something you're selling. That will be in the notes. Like I even say it live on air now.
Oh,
Some people still break it and do it. And again, like I have a huge compassionate heart, so I just like still release the episode, and I wish them good luck, because I think this goes back to that ego thing. Some people are really anchored into like the amount of units I sell of the thing I created has to do with the quality of my life and how well I did. And I for one was a victim of that for many years of my life. I was a musician. How many people showed up to my show? Why doesn't none of these people know the words to the song? Like why, like it was just like constantly competing against myself. And then one day I had to just admit, like, I'm a big ego. I'm just this giant like thing that wants attention, and other people say they hate attention, but that's their way of getting attention. There's like,
yes.
it's like endless. Like every person has this ego that constantly tells them like, you're unhappy. People don't reward you enough. It works differently. If you were abused a lot as a kid, it might tell you really distorted, like awful things that mine doesn't tell me. But like all of us have this thing that like says more, me, and like that's to me what we're talking about with that like sale thing is like, it's a delicate line of respecting someone's either inability to see that, or they see it but they truly don't care. They really think that their mission matters, that like their book is gonna help people see something that they think is gonna like save the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my advice is, but always be kind. I can tell you're a kind guy, so I usually let them flap and talk. I just do, like, and then it's a bad episode, and I hope my fans understand and they forgive me and love me and they come back. And when I say my fans, I just mean my listeners, the people who listen to my show, because I just talked about ego and then I used the word fan, which made me want to like vomit in a side tenure.
Yeah, but that's a good approach. That's a very good approach. You say it out loud, you write it. Like I never thought about doing those things. Yeah, one my approach so far was just like never inviting them again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There was one guest, I won't say her name, and I didn't remove the episode, but I almost removed it like 3 different times. But she, when I used to record, I don't do this anymore, but I had like a timer clock at the bottom because I was
Oh.
marking notes for like editing. And I got 3 questions in. I got, hi, welcome to the show. How old are you? Where did you grow up? And what generation do you belong to? That's usually the first question I ask. And then she answered that. And then I got, so tell me about, and then she talked for, I think 14 uninterrupted minutes. And then I had to interrupt her to ask a second question. She said, let me get back to that after I finish answering. She just walked all over me. And I want to explain why I let her, but then that would out which episode it is. It would be too obvious. But I'll just say that the thing that had allegedly happened to her was so shocking and bad that I felt like I would be such an a-hole for interrupting her. Like, but the thing is, I don't care how bad the thing is that happened to you. You shouldn't talk uninterrupted about it to someone. Like you should just know better. So you can see like the limitations of my heart. I mean, I definitely, but yeah, I released the episode. I never, and then whenever I see her, like, cause I don't unfriend guests, I'm always like friends with people on Facebook. So every once in a while I'll see her post and I'll just be like, oh wow, that's, I'm not going to click on that. Like,
Yeah, that's true. Some guests, they come to a podcast and they feel like now it's my moment to shine. I'm gonna tell my whole life story, uninterruptedly for 40 minutes, 1 hour. Like no, like the way that I see, at least personally, it's a conversation. It's like we're having a Skype call or FaceTime call. That's more my approach. I know everyone's different, but Mike, we just brushed on a theme of death so quickly. I'm so interested by it. I would like to ask a little bit more about it. So,
sure, yeah.
during your episodes, during your podcast, Coffin Talk, did you ever notes? Did you ever know? My God. Let me try again. Did you ever notice a common thread, like something that everyone say that they believe is gonna happen after they die, like something like some common something in common among all of them?
because I interview such weird people sometimes, there's not going to be a common, but I can take those people out and then give you an answer. So I can, like, if I take out the guy who remembers what he was doing before he was born, and I take out the person who had a near death experience who's like very confident in like this or that, I'll say, Christians and Catholics seem apologetic for believing in heaven. I'll say that, like, they seem almost like embarrassed to say it because I think culture makes so much fun of that now. So they're like, well, you know, I really do believe that I'm going to go up to heaven and I'm going to see everyone I loved. And I encourage them to believe in that because I believe in like psychology. I believe that when you close your eyes, you see what you want to see. So I think that when you're dying, it would not be impossible to see every person you ever loved. Also, near-death experiences corroborate this. People say you see the person at the age you want to see them at. So, like, that answers one of those tough questions about, like, well, why would my dad be 43 and, you know, blah, but my dad's going to look like the healthy, happy dad I want to remember, you know? Like, I don't want to see my dad. My dad's still alive, so I shouldn't use him as an example. I don't want to see, like, a person, you know, at the very, very end when they're like lying thin on a table with like bones almost sticking out, you know? So that's like, I would say Christians and Catholics, like that's very common. And then I think the most common thing, it's not what happens when you die, but there's a very common thing that I hear that has inspired me, which is what really matters is the legacy you leave behind. Like, how are people going to remember you? And not like, did you cure cancer? Although that would be an amazing legacy, but there's one person or one team that's going to cure cancer, you know? So like, it's just like, you know, like right now, think of like a very important teacher from your life, and you don't need to tell me who it is, but that person's legacy in your mind is fucking A plus, you know, like that person who like didn't maybe get their book published and maybe they like didn't get to do the job of their dreams and they just became a teacher, you know, but you're like a little boy in their class or a young adult in their class, if it was college, and they fucking changed you. Like they made you feel like important. They made you feel like your life had a point to it. They helped you see something about yourself or the world that you never saw before. And so to me, like, that's the inspiring side of my show is that, God damn, it's so hard to see how important you are to people. Like, because we just don't show it sometimes, or like, it's hard to explain to a waitress, like a server, how much they helped you that night you were at like a diner and you're just feeling lonely. And like, they asked you that extra question and they filled your coffee cup up with like a smile, and like, you're never going to be able to convey to them that memory stuck. But like right now you're picturing that server in your life. I'm picturing that server from my life. They're just servers. They're just working in a restaurant, you know? So like love and legacy and who you impact is, you know, that's why I'm embarrassed when I cut people off when I was younger. I'm embarrassed because I was the asshole in their life who scared them and made them feel like they'd done something wrong, which they probably did. They cut me off, but like, why did I punish them? What, you know, the arrogance of like me to be like, you cut me off in a car, you know, and then like flash forward to like, I'm late for a concert and I missed the exit. So I cut in front of 25 cars because otherwise I'm going to miss the concert, you know? Oh, it's okay. I was late for a concert. Well, maybe that person was late for something, you know? So like, that's as I get older. And that's why I talk the way I do about Donald Trump. Is like, come on, am I going to spend the last 40 years of my life, 50 years, like complaining about politics and getting mad at because there's an aggressive person in office who beat a different aggressive person who claims they care about other policies? Like, no, I have to have an ability to like live and breathe and be happy. I have to be able to fill someone's cup in a diner no matter who's president and no matter how many bombs are dropping. And if I lived in Russia and Putin was my president, I would feel probably the same way I feel right now living in America with Trump as my president. So I hate when people like talk about people in a country as if their leaders were their responsibility. And so that does tie into death and legacy, because right now a lot of people are spending no time on their personal interactions with people, and they're spending all their time bombastically posting what they think about the world, whether it's, you know, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, America, Trump, electric cars, cancer, earthquake in Thailand, you know, just like news, blah, like, but man, just be good to people, be nice to people. Like the hardest thing for me is like, my wife pissed me off this morning and I've got to work really hard on being nice to her later, because I love my wife and my wife does so much for me, but she pissed me off this morning and I just wanted to be pissed. Like, I just wanted to be upset with my wife. And I've gotten a divorce. I know that if I don't correct and I don't show her love tonight, I'm the one who's pushing her away, not the other way around. So yeah, your legacy is the answer. Like the most common answer I get is, well, this is what I think happens when you die, but that's not actually important. What's important is like remembering to be nice to people. Like it's hard to do that, and I need to do more of that.
Yeah, that's a very, very nice answer. I think they asked Keanu Reeves on air once, Keanu, what do you think happens to us when we die? And he said, the only thing I know for sure is that the ones who love us will miss us.
That's a good answer.
Did you see this interview? It's beautiful.
No, but I anytime I'm watching an interview now, because this happens a lot, and someone says like, "What do you think happens when you die?" I'm like, "They stole my question!" Like I get like heated. It's so funny, and it's not even as much ego as it sounds. So much as like, "No, I want to ask them." Like what So I love when I see that though. And Keanu Reeves actually, he strikes me as a really like heartfelt guy. Like he does. Like he's not like a lot of other movie stars. And I keep hearing from people that like behind the scenes, he's super giving and warm. And I think that answer shows that. I really do. I also think some people who get successful, there's like a real damn good reason for it. I really do. I do believe that some people get rewarded for doing horrible things, but I don't think internally they feel rewarded. But I think a lot of these people who really rise to like the top, it's because there's a goodness in them and people are attracted to that and they want to promote them up.
What are your views on Will Smith?
All right. I started this by saying I'm going to be authentic, so I'm going to be authentic. I feel very bad for him now. I feel bad for him because he is a victim of performativity. He knows that his wife has adult relations with other men. He knows that they've been in a open marriage that he didn't really want to advertise and she did. And I think he feels that horrible feeling that a lot of young men feel, especially when you date like a chick who you think is much better looking than you and she's flirting with other people in front of you and you're just kind of like, how do I contain my anger and my jealousy? Like I don't want to blow this relationship. And then like at a certain point you're like, oh, this is not the relationship for me. Like I want someone who makes me feel secure. If she respected that side of me, she wouldn't behave like this, so it's not about like they're wrong. It's about like, well, what works for you? So Will Smith, I think he couldn't handle his wife's decision to go public about something that he didn't want to. And so I think when Chris Rock made that joke, and I'm a huge Chris Rock fan, I think Chris Rock knew he was crossing a line, but I think he thought what everyone else thinks, which is I'm at a mic at a roast and I'm allowed to say this. So Will Smith should not have hit him. I think he deserves the negative repercussions of showing violence on stage. I think, I've heard like a million people be like, well, what if it had been a different person than Chris Rock? Well, it wasn't. It was Chris Rock. And Chris Rock is a beloved, small, short comedian. And Will Smith is a giant, huge monolith of entertainment. And he should have been able to sit there and not do it. So I don't want to support Will Smith, but I don't want to go on the record saying like, he's a cook. He's the, because I don't think that's true. I have a lot of sympathy for once you have kids, it's just like you're beholden to your relationship very differently than you would think, because like you care much more of what your kids think of you than what the society that talks about you thinks. So I just think it would not be easy to be Will Smith and to have children at the ages he has and then have a comedian make that joke about your wife. And I think he lost his cool. But he should not have. I do not approve or condone, what he did. So
yeah. Maybe if we had those lessons about emotional intelligence at school,
yeah.
If this was a thing, more. Go ahead.
It's I say this a lot, especially to younger people. I believe in marriage, but I also believe in divorce, and I think that everyone should understand that. Like, it's just like, so I think Will Smith should have gotten a divorce like a long time ago. That's my honest answer. It's like, it would probably be hard to part with that much money and how alimony works in California. Also, don't live in California. Like, if you're gonna get married and be rich, pick a state that has a no fault.
Oh man, I need to visit. As I mentioned, I think before we going live, I went to the US 2-3 times already during my life. I've never been to the Apple campus. It's my dream. I'm an Apple fanatic.
That's interesting.
I love Apple. I have to go there one day. Have you been there?
That's where I grew up.
Really?
That's crazy. I grew up like about an hour drive from Cupertino. Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from like Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco.
Oh, that's amazing, Mike. Have you visited
Yeah.
the area? Like,
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, because of my age, like, it wouldn't have made sense to visit. Like, by the time Apple became as famous as it is to you, it wouldn't have made sense for me to like visit it. But I have friends who like work for them. I knew a guy. My friend was dating a guy for a year who worked for them, and he would have to like leave parties on Friday nights because his team had to like do something important. And I'd be like, "Oh, come on, man! Like, stay and have another drink." He's like, do you know how pissed everyone's going to be if the iPhone 15 doesn't come out on time because I decided to have an extra drink? And I was
that's
just
me.
like,
That's
"Oh,
me.
yeah." And I was like, damn, like, you're important. You're right. Yeah. Like it was weird to like, cause I love Apple too. I'm like, yeah, you know, can I just geek out with Apple about you for
Of
one
course,
thing that
yeah.
I just love them for? In my country, these people, went back to like a work party and they shot a bunch of people dead in San Bernardino, California. And the FBI demanded that Apple hand over their phones and unlock them to like see what their text messages were. And Apple said, hell no, we're never giving that code away. That's what makes Apple Apple and what makes every other company suck. And I agree. So as much as I might not like their pricing structures, their competition, the China factory usage and all that, their sense of integrity to protect us is so strong that they even just told the UK recently the same thing. They said, we'll build a totally different phone for your corrupt government that wants to spy on its citizens. But here in America, we're not going to let our government spy on our citizens on their phones. And I really deeply respect that.
That's beautiful. I agree. I also respect it. Mike, please share with the audience your links where they can find you.
Okay, do I have an hour though? Because I want to talk about my career for an hour. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I made everything easy because I do a lot, like I said at the beginning. So if you go to MikeYopp.com, that's Mikey Opp. My name is Mike Oppenheim, but everyone calls me Mikey because I have a young attitude, I guess. So the older I get, the more people called me Mikey for most of my life. But MikeYopp.com, it has everything. When you hit that page, it'll say, do you want to sign up? There's a free subscription service I run, and that's my attempt to get you in the front door, and then I try to sell you things. But if you never buy anything, you'll still get a weekly email that is full of like humor and funny, weird philosophical thoughts. And it also has a link to every week's Coffin Talk. So I would love for people to head over there and sign up for that. But I do want to make it clear, I actually have started just coming on these shows because it's so fun to meet people, Bruno. It's like so fun just to meet you and talk. And we were supposed to do this a month ago and I had to cancel because of daycare and kid shit. So I'm appreciative that you were able to do that for me.
Of course. It was a pleasure. Mike, thank you so much. It was really fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Don't forget, this Saturday we're going to have the earth-shattering news announcement. Tune in and turn up and be inspired. That's about it. See you then. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BruCast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at bru-cast.com/store. Again, that's bru-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a BruCast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy BruCast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing BruCast merch, or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of BruCast. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on screen right now. You can upload your pictures at bru-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.